Okay, is this thing rolling now? So this is for one of them like city papers? Alright then. Now, you said you wanted me to start with my name and where my farm is? Well, I ain't gonna do that. And you'll see why as I start talking, and you'll understand. But what I will say is, well, back then, they said it would all take much longer for all this to get here. They said none of this would arrive so soon. That was wrong. Very wrong. You'll have to excuse me. You see, I'm suffering from what the urban dwellers call dirt farmer delirium. I twitch and spasm at times and with no explanation. It's real irritating. Doctors don't know what to make of it. I just know that anybody who works outside these days, if they don't collapse from heat stroke, well, they eventually develop this strange new illness, something like a mix of epilepsy and a fit of rabies or something. Except that it does go away after no more than about 10 minutes. But it scares the hell out of the family when it happens. So you can look around here and you can see nothing grows. Everything scorches and cooks beneath the blistering sun. It started a few years back when 20% of all crops worldwide failed because of the intense heat waves that spread over the landscape. It's like a hot iron pressing shirts and slacks. A steamroller of baking sun like we ain't never seen before rolled across my farm, across all these other farms, and every farm everywhere. The temperatures in some places hit 130 degrees. In other places, it got even hotter than that. I can't even reckon on that. I ain't never heard of such a thing. And them was the good old days. Each year after that, temperatures ramped up a little more. Some years a lot more. And they all knew this was coming. They just didn't do anything to stop it. Them scientists talked about various tipping points and worst case scenarios and positive feedback loops. Well, let me tell you what they didn't talk about. What they didn't talk about was how hitting any one of them such tipping points or triggering one of them loop things multiplies the possibility of triggering the next one. Next one is like right there on the list. Exponentially is the word they kept using. Exponentially faster than if you just look at any one of them things by themselves. These fellas, this is their job. They supposed to examine all them possibilities. They didn't talk about the possibilities of rapid changes, the ones that could and would happen far more intensely than anyone was comfortable talking about. Sure, they talked a whole lot about what happens if all the ice up yonder melts, what happens if all them rainforests is gone and they ain't sucking up no more of that CO2 first. What happens if the oceans all get acidified and died off? What happens if that permafrost starts giving off that methane? What happens if them ocean currents stop flowing in such a way as to provide the rains that cool everything down? What happens when there's just too many floods and droughts and hurricanes and whatnot? What happens when the sea levels rise so damn much that literally hundreds of millions of folk all over the damn globe suddenly are hunting a new place to live, anywhere they can find? What happens when Miami and New York are underwater? What happens when the crops start failing? Yeah, they talked about all them things, like it was all separate things or something, and they ain't. They all talked about each one of them, and they talked, and they talked, and they talked. They talked until the goddamn cows came home, and they didn't do a goddamn thing about it. They just kept having them highfalutin meetings in France, promising they was gonna do this and that and the other. I ain't done shit, goddamn politicians. They was all deep in the pockets of the ones who was causing all the problems to begin with. Then, in a real short space of time, all them things started happening, one right after the other. Nobody paid no attention to all them floods up in New York, down in Tennessee, Miami, Florida. They sure as hell didn't give a damn about the ones that was happening in China and India, and them other foreign places. They didn't pay no attention to the notion that them same things was coming to us soon enough. No, they just kept on keeping on, pumping all them fumes up into the air from all them coal plants and all them other bits of foolishness they was doing, fracking and whatnot. Now we live in a goddamn disaster movie. Not that we have the luxury of watching movies anymore. No one makes them because the audience can't afford to go and see them. We got books, but folks hardly read anymore. How? When the days and nights are drenched in sweat and worries about what horrible miseries the next day is dreaming up for us. We're only allowed to turn on the air conditioner when the temperature gets above 115 degrees. Right here in the heartland of America. We ain't used to it getting up to 115 degrees, much less past that point. But we can't turn it on till it hits there, because the strict laws about the power usage that we got now. Everybody's malnourished, overworked, overwhelmed, and half crazy from the damn heat. Who can read a goddamn book? Especially when all them books was written in a distant past, one that may as well have been on a different planet. No one wants to be tortured by pleasant dreams of things that are no more and never will be again. Each passing year, more crops fail, more refugees pour through the area, bigger and less predictable storms crushing entire cities, the oceans dying. They rising up, swallowing up people's homes. More and more drop dead. My neighbors, they look at me with suspicion. That is, they look at me from across their barbed wire fences. No one comes near anyone else anymore. Not since the beginning of the latest plague. The scientists all said that it'd probably be another 100 years before we get hit again with anything that was as bad as the flu in 1918 or that one that happened in 2020. Again, they was wrong. New diseases spring up now like wildflowers. Not that wildflowers grow anymore. No one goes outside without their specialized breathing apparatus. The air they ain't no longer fit to breathe. Oh yeah, my neighbors, I forgot. The reason they eye me with suspicion? Why? Well, because I'm still able to produce, and they ain't. I mean, they produce some, but not as much as me. I'm a valuable member of society now, whatever society there is left, because I can regularly deliver at least 50% of the crops that I put into the ground each season. To them, that looks like a damn minor miracle. And it is. Most farmers now only end up harvesting about 20 to 30% of what they plant. The real good ones, they get maybe 40-45%. The suicide rate among farmers is becoming higher than it is for other parts of that society. It's a laugh. Society. It's just folks. What they don't know, my neighbors that is that I got a secret well. That's why I ain't gonna tell you my name. That's why I ain't gonna tell you where my farm's located. 'Cause I don't want nobody to know. I got a secret reservoir and I use it to keep my crops watered. Nobody knows about it. No one except myself, my wife, my children, and my hired hands, and it's gonna stay that way. It's not exactly clean, pure water, but nobody needs to know about that. Besides, people are plenty happy to have actual, real vegetables on their plates. I ain't asking too many questions about why there's a slightly odd taste and smell to them. They're still getting their vitamins from them, and it's filling their bellies. Besides, a man who hasn't had a turnip in 2 years and hadn't eaten a meal in the past 2 days, he don't look a gift horse in the mouth. He just assumes, well, he must have done forgot what turnips taste like. Most of what we can still effectively grow are the tuber vegetables. Anything that grows above ground, it's about 80% more likely to die from too much sun. These days it just withers up, no matter how much water you pour on it. Because I get more grant money from the government, since I produce more food than the other ones, I do have some screens that cover about 3 acres of my land, shields them from the sun, and that allows us to grow some broccoli and other stuffs that most folks can't grow no more. Those are our prize crops. They fetch the most handsome prices and allows us the good fortune of some other special treats, like ice cream, but only on the birthdays of the young'uns. Me and Ma don't pay no attention to our birthdays no more. Can't afford to. $45 for a damn pint of ice cream. Hell, try to do that more than 3 times in a year and a man would be ruined in no time at all. My men, they have to carry the water out into the fields at night when the neighbors can't see what they're doing. If a man spills water anywhere except right on them plants, I beat his ass right there where all the others can see. My granddaddy, he never had to run his farm like it was a goddamn mafia crew, but those were different times. No farmer can exist anymore without a patrol of armed men who guard the fields. Otherwise, other farmers would come in the dead of the night and steal them. The government gives me more money than they do the other farmers because I provide more food than the other farmers do. This makes me valuable. It makes me loved by the people in the marketplaces and bitterly despised by the other farmers. So I got to watch my back at all times. I have to have twice as many men, all of them armed with automatic weapons. I patrol every inch of my land 24 hours a day, non-stop. It's a difficult thing keeping them all in line. Sometimes one of them will get a little bit uppity. You think that he's going to be the alpha male here? I can't allow that. That ain't going to happen. Last year alone, I beat 3 of them to pulp, right in front of the others, so they can all see who's in charge, and it's the only way I can keep them in line. Otherwise, I'd lose control of this place and everything. 2 years ago, I had to put a bullet in the back of one man's head. It was out back. No one saw it, but everyone knew it was me, and ain't nobody questioned it. No one dared say a word. The police, what police force is left, they give me a wide berth. They let me do whatever I need to keep this farm running and in tight shape because, again, I produce more food than all the others, and they wants to keep the people fed much as they can. People's crying bloody murder. They ain't got enough food, so you can see how that works out. More important than the police, though, the government troops. They no longer resemble the military that we used to know. Technically, we're under 24/7 martial law, but really, it's more of a loosely knit band of ragtag mercenaries, good old boys and whatnot, outfitted in official gear. There's been somewhat of a breakdown in the chain of command here and there. And they all on the take, the cops, the mercenaries. Unless you bribe them well enough, they won't respond to your distress calls. When that happens, a band of well-armed raiders might cut through your property like a red-hot razor, stealing your food, your belongings, beating, even killing you. Might rape your wife, your daughters, leaving you destroyed, nothing left to rebuild upon. If you're even alive to rebuild. It don't happen as much as it did. The government got wise to them. They realized that the farms were now highly valued military targets. Because if you take out the food supply, then the people, including the army, they all starve quick like. So they organized bands of troops. They patrol the farmland. They listen on their radios for distress calls. When the raiders try to come through, stealing food, sacking, and looting, the military sweeps in and guns them down. The farmers are expected to dispose of the bodies themselves. We don't mind. We need the fertilizer. We'll take care of them. The land is all dead or half dead. More of it dies with each brutal summer that passes by. I declare I ain't never seen nothing like it. We curse the names of those who saw this coming decades ago, did nothing. We no longer say prayers of thanks over the meager 1 or 2 meals a day that we get, if you can call them meals. We know that if there's anyone up there, well, none of them are listening. We now just curse the names of the bureaucrats who kept making it worse, pretending that none of it was real, refusing to listen to reason or evidence. That wouldn't listen to the scientists, wouldn't listen to any of it. They wanted to just keep padding their pockets. Each year, we hear news of how 1 or more of their family members have now been pulled from their hiding places. Yes, they all had to scurry into the darkness like roaches to avoid the wrath of the people. Once people got wise that all this shit was really going down, that it was actually happening. But one by one, sometimes 3 or 4 of them together, they're found. They shoot them in the streets, or hang them, or worse. Yeah, it's illegal, but nobody cares and no one complains. The people cheer when it happens. Hell, they break out a little nip from their secret stashes of water or booze or whatever they've been saving up. They toast the event with a smile and some choice words. My men, they're restless. They can't go near the women in town for fear of what diseases they might catch. Men used to worry about things like syphilis and gonorrhea. Now they worry about viruses that will kill you dead within no more than a month. I know that if they're caught slipping into town, they won't be allowed back. You ain't getting back into my compound, not if you've been fraternizing with one of them gals that's got one of them respiratory diseases that's 10 times worse than that COVID mess was. We got runners for everything. They pick up the crops at the gate. They drop off the supplies we need. They sell the crops for us in town. They bring the money back to us, usually. Sometimes we have to hire the mercenaries to hunt one of them fellers who tried to make off with our profits. What happens to them ain't purty. I wouldn't say that the mercenaries like us, but they just recognize our value. They know that they can't afford to let us go under. They count on us for their food. Ain't nobody else gonna grow it. Without us, they'd starve, so they do right by us. Simple things, like a little butter for your bread, some sugar to put in your tea, because coffee is now way too rare to come by. These things are luxuries that only the wealthiest can afford. But the wealthiest have become the biggest targets of all in all of this. They never figured on that. They assumed that their money would keep them above the rising tide, and it would have, except that once society begins crumbling, things no more operate along the same rules and lines as they used to. They never counted on the bands of raiders invading their homes. They did not expect that the military would be too far away to get there in time to help them, conveniently. They also didn't expect that the government would begin commandeering their wealth by taxing them at rates of 60, 70, and even 90% in some places to help combat this problem. Not that it can be fixed anymore at this point. They should have got on all this garbage 30 years ago. I didn't take that into account, them rich folks. And once everything crumbles, their money don't buy 'em nothing. 'Cause there ain't nothing to be bought. 'Cause ain't nobody making nothing. Same type of respect and privilege that they used to get, it's a pipe dream now. They didn't stop for a damn minute to think, to realize that it ain't no use being the richest feller on a planet that's too damnable hot to live on. It's like that old saying, richest man in the graveyard. They ain't stopped to reckon on the simple fact that life hunkered down in some bunker, even if it is stocked with all the amenities. Hell, that ain't no kind of life at all. Can't take your family to the beach or have a picnic in the park, 'cause you can't breathe the damn air anyhow. They thought that only poor folks would die, and they'd somehow ride out the storm and be left to themselves, rule the world. All them pesky poor folks dropped off. Now it's just us. Woohoo! Boy, was they wrong. They thought all that money was going to somehow make them immune to living inside an oven with the heat getting turned up a little bit more every year. Instead, all it bought them was a bitter hatred, jealousy, and violence crashing down on their thick skulls. The only ones left are those who raised their own small armies of militia to protect them. Still, the raiders and them tech terrorists, they keep awful heavy on their throats. They killing them slowly with what they call the death of 1,000 small cuts. They get to them, one way or another. They at least make life real difficult for them rich folks. They never saw that one coming, I tell you what. Them folks was too fat, spoiled, and short-sighted to see so many things about all of this, about how all of this would pan out in the end. Serves them right, if you ask me. They didn't want to stop pouring their poisons into the atmosphere because they didn't want to hurt their profits, and now look what we got. Nothing. They kept saying they didn't need to stop, that solar and wind power would save us. Sure, now everything runs on solar and wind. It has to. But they didn't stop the steady flow of thick black soot rising up from them pipes up into the heat dome, making life less and less tolerable every damn day. Sure, the cars are all electric now. It's the law. They got to be. You can't drive a gas car no more. It's against the law. And who the hell can afford a damn car these days? Nobody, that's who. Hell, me and mine, we're awful lucky compared to most folks nowadays. We get most of what we need to get by on account of my being in good with the government people. Most ain't so lucky. The Swensons down yonder, about 2 miles, last month their daughter died for want of a medicine that I used to see on the shelf in every drugstore that I ever been in for my whole life. Now you can't find it hardly nowhere, 'cause it's made with stuff that only grows in China, and since we're at war with them, all because their economy collapsed too, I don't reckon we'll be getting no more of that anytime soon. Girl weren't but 14 years old. It's a damn shame, I tell you. I have to stop talking now. I need to go back inside for a while, get out of this sun, get a little sip of water. I think I feel one of my fits coming on.